Tonight's show is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon, Vendetti Optics, and you, our listeners. And the ability to find a diamond. How freaking cool is that? Ooh. I just got too excited. This is truly a hidden gem. What is up, all of you wayward souls, and welcome back to the Wayward Stories podcast. Wayward Stories is the podcast where we tell the tales of our adventures in our wanderings and wonderings. Hi, guys. It's been a minute. It's been a bunch of minutes. It's been over a month and a half since I've dropped a show. How's everyone doing? Well, just so you know, you guys have all been on my mind. And apparently I've been on some of yours. I've started to get messages, emails have slowly started to filter in about what's going on with the show. Where's the production? Well, it's just been pretty busy. Honestly, like you guys know, we've talked about it ad nauseum, and it's been busy. Things have gotten a little wild, but I've had a lot of extracurriculars going on in the last couple of months. And I'm going to actually tell you about a few of them just because I think they're pretty cool. And I think you guys will appreciate it. And it's kind of a part of my journal here, right? This is kind of what this is, Justin's Wayward Story. And again, still looking to tell some of your wayward stories. If any of you have any, I will be happy to do so. Just get in touch at mywaywardstory@gmail.com. One of the friends of the show that emailed was Mary R., who's one of our more recent listeners, and she was checking in. Y'all, I just bring her up because she is out there living her best life. She's been traveling across Greece. She mentioned Santorini. How many of you guys know of the island of Santorini? Santorini is gorgeous. I've never seen it with my own, human flesh eyes in person. I've only seen it in many a documentary about trying to find Atlantis. And that's really interesting to me because that is probably one of the prime candidates for what would have been Atlantis, as recorded in the history books that everyone is looking for. That's something y'all need to know about Atlantis, by the way. Historically, it did not have flying cars and all that stuff. That was like a 1950s thing. That was an Edgar Cayce thing. It wasn't even a Edgar Cayce thing, but he was kind of in that era. But the idea of extremely advanced technology, that's like totally a 1950s TV show sci-fi era thing. All we know is they were a very advanced society and there was some kind of a cataclysm and they disappeared into the ocean. Well, Santorini is got my if I'm betting on Santorini because that historical game of telephone, it gets supercharged over time, but the story originally just said they were very advanced. Well, there was a lot of advanced civilizations through time. The Mayans, the Incas, ever heard of Machu Picchu? Holy cow. You want to talk about advanced engineering, the ancient Egyptians. So there's no reason whatsoever there couldn't have been an actual really advanced society for their time living on the island of Santorini, which just so happened to be a volcano that blew up and then sank into the ocean. So anyway, I would love to see Santorini in person, and good on you, Mary, out there traveling the world. Maybe someday. I aspire, right? I aspire. Anyway, so what have I been up to? You might be asking, Justin, why did you ghost us for the last 6 weeks? Well, number one, we had our 4-day archaeological dig. I'm actually wearing our dig t-shirt right here. You can see it if you're watching on YouTube. Nikuku Widdish. That is a Caddo word that basically means the place of the water salt. We rebranded it from the site that it was called, which was a Anglican name of the person who owned the spring. And the only reason I'm not telling you is not because of it's because of protection of the site, actually, so people can't go out there and pot hunt. But it means place of the water salt. It's in Caddo, and it's because it was a salt making factory. Anyway, I got to spend 4 days there this year, which was awesome. You guys, if you have any interest in archaeology, I'm telling you, reach out to your local survey or society and see if they accept volunteers. A lot of them do, and they're happy to put you to work for free. Never in my life thought I'd get to lay my hands on 600-year-old pottery and look at the thumbprints and the imprints and the fingernail lines and all of the little things that is present on this pottery. It's amazing. Also, finally wrapped up this big program I've been writing to present at the National Historic Site here on the Osage Nation and their what the effects of westward expansion on them. And that was an hour-long program I gave a few Saturdays ago, and that took a lot of space in my brain. Because when you're about to present that to who knows how many people in a big room in the public and present this PowerPoint and tell this big story, that was kind of stressful. And then also I shot a Canon because I was like, you know what also would look good on a resume? Living history. Well, they needed Cannoneers. And so I'm learning to shoot a Canon. I'm actually going day after tomorrow to Pea Ridge to fire a Canon again. We did this on the 4th of July as well. That was really cool. Everyone's like, you going to shoot fireworks this year? You dang right I'm about to shoot a firework. Biggest one you've ever seen. Friggin' 6-pounder cannon. I think it was a 6-pounder. I don't know all the cannons. There's like Parrott guns and mountain howitzers. I know it's not a mountain howitzer because they've just ordered one. Just FYI, I may be an extreme nerd, but I'm not really into living history that much, quite honestly. But it's a great point on a resume. So I'm like, yeah, this is a good opportunity, but I'm not really into it that much. But it does actually give you some real perspective on what people went through when you're standing there going through the process. Like, y'all, it ain't easy to shoot a cannon. It takes like 6 guys. And there's like this whole choreographed, it's almost a ballet of violence to get that thing done and get it shot. And those guys were literally the target on a battlefield because they had the biggest, meanest weapon, the biggest threat to the enemy. So as soon as you fire one shot, everybody turns their guns at you. And those guys are standing there going through this process that takes 30 seconds, a minute, maybe longer, being fired at, doing it definitely gives you a different perspective on what it must have been like for these guys in the Civil War. So anyway, lots of craziness in Justin's world. But that's the path I chose, right? We started this podcast. I was out there looking for something, right? And this is a part of that something. So I share it here with you and hope to inspire. I hate that word because I feel like that gives me way too much credit. I'm not an inspirational person, but I hope that it inspires you to like get off your butts and live your own life, no matter what it is. You don't have to be shooting cannons. Doesn't really particularly matter to me. It's whatever you feel in your heart, but you need to get out there and start doing it. Anyway, let's get on with tonight's show. We're going to talk about something here that's been a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. It's gotten under my skin, but this isn't going to be a gripey episode. Don't worry, guys. I'm just saying. We're going to talk about hidden gems in the travel world. Everyone nowadays is like, this truly hidden gem. Okay. Every time I see it used in the last couple of years, it is totally a falsehood. They are totally misappropriating that word. See, hidden, think about it. What does hidden mean? This is why English is important. Words have meanings. Hidden means that it's not obvious. It means that not everyone knows about it. It means covert. Covert is a word that is a synonym for hidden. But I see it all the time. And I see it on things that it is totally misappropriated, like, I don't know, Hemmed In Hollow Falls or the Buffalo River, all this stuff in the Ozarks. And it's like this truly hidden gem in the Ozarks of Arkansas. No, it is not. You have to stand in line to go see it. That is not a hidden gem. What that is lazy journalism. That's like intellectually lazy. And it just, it's a pet peeve of mine. Because what it is we go back to the yuppies. It's a bunch of yuppies trying to be famous on the internet and trying to emulate actual professional travel writers. Okay. But not knowing what the hell they're doing. Okay. Hidden insinuates that no one knows about it or it's very little known. Anything in the Ozarks is not hidden. Not anymore. And it hasn't been for a long, long, long time. Saying that the Buffalo River is a hidden gem is like saying, check out the hidden gem of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. No, it's not. The Buffalo River has become like a tourist trap destination. Okay. If you want to see a hidden part of the Buffalo River, you're going to have to do like a 2 to 3 day float, get way down in the middle river, get way past all the upper stuff that all the touristy people are coming to see, the weekend warriors from Texas. Like, you're going to have to go much further to find something hidden in the Ozarks now. So that frustrates me. So let's talk about a true hidden gem tonight, which would be the Ouachita Mountains, by my estimation, in southern Arkansas. Kind of the counterpart. This is the interior highlands. This is what makes up the North American interior highlands, is the Ozark Mountains and the Ouachita Mountains. We got a big river valley right in between them that the Arkansas River goes through. Nobody's hanging out down in the Ouachita Mountains. I mean, there are mostly locals, and any locals listening are going to be like, why are you telling people? Because no one's going to go there. You know why? Because you have to work for it in the Ouachitas. And that automatically excludes 98.7% of the people heading into the Ozarks every single weekend. You have to do a real hike if you want to enjoy the Ouachita Mountains. You have to really actually get out in it and go work for it. The Ozarks, it's like basically handed to you. Here's our trailhead. Here's an extremely well-beaten trail. And here's all of our beautiful things a quarter of a mile down the trail. Or even the ones that are harder hikes, extremely well-beaten paths, and there's 150 people on that trail with you all along the way. You're not going to get in any trouble. It's not secluded at all. They're easier hikes. You go down the Ouachitas, y'all, it is possible to get lost for over a week. I know this because there was a gentleman from Dallas that got lost in the Ouachitas, south of Mena, Arkansas, just a few years ago for over a week. He was literally out there for 8 days. He's a miracle. That man was a miracle that he survived. It's a miracle. 8 days, and I believe it was July or August. It was the middle of summer, and he had medications he needed and did not have any of after like day 3. He is a miracle that he survived. But that's what you can do in the Ouachitas. You can't get lost like that in the Ozarks. Not really. Anywhere you are, you're within a mile of a power line right of way, or a road, or a tourist. God, if you're in the Ozarks anymore, you're within 6 inches of a tourist anywhere you are. Okay? So, the Ouachitas are gorgeous. They're just like the Ozarks, save we don't have a 200-foot waterfall, 205-foot waterfall in Hemmed-In Hollow. It's kind of like a carbon copy of the Ozarks, but without all the humans. That's a hidden gem. And we're going to talk about the Ouachitas tonight because we have a crap ton of state parks in the Ouachitas that are super awesome. And I've got like 4 specifically that are across a broad spectrum from wilderness to historic and otherwise that we're going to talk about in a little bit greater detail. And then I've got a whole list here of all the other parks that are down there. And we probably won't go through the whole list towards the end of the show, but I will kind of give you an idea of what there is down there to check out. But before we get to the actual state parks, let's just talk about the Ouachita Mountains, the National Forest, and like dispersed camping and a little bit more lenient usage of the forest. That's really what tonight's show is about. Is probably our national lands, the National Forest, the Bureau of Land Management lands. Those places, those are where you're going to find your actual hidden gems. Guys, there's stuff out there that is on the same scale of glorious and beautiful and majestic as you will find in the Ozarks or the Apps or anywhere else you want to name that's like super touristy, that's a focal point that 10,000 people a day hike to see. There are places just like that out on our national public lands. But you just have to know how to find them, and you have to go looking for them, and you have to put in a little work. That's what makes them hidden, is they take a little bit of work. But see, the payoff to me is even greater. Like, guys, I'm the same as you guys. I'm going to go see the thing you have to see, even if it's an easy hike, even if there's a trailhead, even if there's a freaking Starbucks halfway down the trail. I'm going to go see it because it's famous for a reason. They don't just arbitrarily pick like, that bluff's kind of cool, let's call that our focal point and build a tourism industry around it. No, there's something really special there. Absolutely. I'm going to go see those. And maybe I'll stop at Starbucks on the way down the trail too. But the payoff for going to some of the actual hidden gems is hard work. Sure. A lot of sweat. Sure. A lot of ticks and chiggers, or chiggers and ticks, as we like to say around here. Or tigers and chicks. Did I get that right? Tigers and chicks. Anyway, it's a lot more effort, but once you get there, the real payoff is not everyone and their dog and their dog's grandmother has come out here to see it with you. And it's that silence. It's the sound of the cicadas rocking through the forest, or the locust, or the crickets, or the frogs, or wherever you are, whether it's a lake to a mountaintop, it doesn't matter. It's like you and very, very few, if any, other people. They exist everywhere. Here in Arkansas, we have a dearth of them. We've got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of square acres of Ouachita National Forest to the south. There's a little bit, a couple of postage stamps of national forest in the Ozarks, but again, they're overused because they're in the region. They're in New California up there. But as you go over into Oklahoma, there's a whole hell of a lot more Ouachita Mountains National Forest. But you go on out into the southwest, into Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, BLM, Colorado, BLM everywhere. Guys, those are the hidden gems. There's stuff. I mean, go back and listen to any of the New Mexico episodes. You know how many of those things I did out there were on like Bureau of Land Management land? Those are the places people aren't going because you have to look for it and you have to work for it. That's what you guys need to be looking for if you're looking for hidden gems. Here's some of the perks of the National Forest or Bureau of Land Management. I'm just going to call it National Forest going forward because this is what I've grown up with here in the Ozarks and the Ouachitas my whole life. But it encompasses all of that. Okay. It's a catch-all statement for tonight's show. Things you can do there that you can't just go up and do anywhere and say the Ozarks, a not hidden gem. Well, you can dispersed camp for one thing, which you can do on the Buffalo River, but again, no longer hidden, hasn't been for, 30 years, but dispersed camping. What is dispersed camping? It means you don't have to camp at a site that is already prepared and designated by the government. You can camp anywhere the hell you want to. That alone's pretty cool, right? You drive down a road till you see a spot you like along a creek somewhere and you put your camp together. You build the whole thing. That's pretty cool. Fishing. There's fishing everywhere. As long as you got your state fishing license, if you like to fish, well, there's no property lines down there in National Forest. I mean, there might be a few. Some people still have little bits and pieces that they managed to fight the federal government on back in the day and maintain. But generally speaking, you're in a big, broad expanse of National Forest. It's wide open. You want to fish? You go fish. You want to camp? You go camp. You want a back road? You want to take out a four-wheeler? You want to take out an ATV? You want to take out a dirt bike? You can, which I implore you to use responsibly, because even down in our hidden gem of the Ouachitas, there are quite a few side-by-siders. As I mentioned way back on the Bell Star Cave episode, that's technically the Ouachita Mountains in our South County here. And I don't know how many beer cans I picked up at the bottom of a hell hike that would kill most modern people. I'm not even joking. Like, we nearly had to drag one of our own people out of there. And we're the search and rescue team. It was a crazy, serious, like 1,100 feet of elevation gain in just a couple of miles. We did it in August. It was insane, or July. It was insane. It was rough. So I know people aren't chugging beers on their hike on the way up the side of that hill and down. It was the UTVs that had destroyed the trail. So please, off-road responsibly. I beg of you. And please, pack it in, pack it out, because some of the rest of us, we like to enjoy stuff as well. So please don't trash it for the rest of us, you lazy jerks. But that's something you can do anywhere in the National Forest. People really get into that out in BLM lands because you get a lot of deserts out there, high arid deserts, and people love to take their motorbikes out there, side-by-sides. These are all things that are possibilities for you. And our Ouachita National Forest has a bunch of them. We also have the Ouachita Trail, which I didn't write down the stuff, and I should have. Did I not? I didn't write down the details, but it's a whole hail of a lot of miles all the way across. It's literally from in Oklahoma, basically, all the way to Little Rock. And that's all. I mean, you can through hike that trail. It's kind of like our Ozark Highland Trail. Ouachita Trail is intense And it's for you guys that really like to get back in it and do it the hard way and do it the secluded on your own way. It's a pretty awesome trail. I've hiked portions of it. I've never hiked all of it. I've never had enough days off of work in a row to try to hike that thing like that. But it's a really serious trail, but it's a beautiful trail. And I've seen parts of it, and you guys should check it out if you're that kind of hiker. If you like through hiking, it's one you should put on your list. Let me give you some examples of some one-offs that you can find in National Forest from the Ouachita Mountains here in South. Have I been saying southeast? It's southwest Arkansas. I may not have said, but it's southwest Arkansas is where the majority of this is. Some of the one-offs down there, for one thing, island camping. You guys ever heard of island camping? We got several big old lakes down there. What is it? Lake Ouachita, Lake Catherine. There's one or two more. Enormous lakes. They were created for water projects, obviously, for drinking water, for power, for all kinds of stuff. You know, we had to hydroelectric up the whole dang state, just like an Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The TVA, right? But they are like whole freaking destinations. Now, understand this. Let me be clear. They are not hidden gems in the Ouachitas. Those lakes are packed every weekend because we got a lot of lake bums around here. Lake life is not really my life. Just because. I don't know. I don't like sitting around doing literally nothing. If I'm out there, I want to be exploring, adventuring. I got my own way of doing things. To each their own, right? So to all you lake bums out there, I ain't hating on you. Just not really my life. But we got a bunch around here. So those lakes are big lakes. They're good lakes for scuba diving, etc. However, the hidden gem is the thing that you may not know about those lakes, and probably many lakes throughout the country. If they're public, they might have islands. And if they have islands, especially down in the Ouachitas here in Arkansas, well, you can camp on those islands. Now, it's obviously a little bit of an exclusive club. You have to have a boat to get to the islands. And more often than not, a kayak's not going to cut it. I mean, you could do it if you wanted, but you're probably going to get killed trying to get to the island by all the motorboats cutting across the lake at 100 miles an hour because they like to do that. And we're talking a couple of mile paddles out to some of these islands. I happened to fall in with a group of people some 5-6 years ago that I'd gotten to know. And they were going island camping. Like, you want to go island camping with us? And I was like, I've never heard of such. What is this? It's awesome is what it is. Okay. So you get in with one of these groups, or you find an island yourself. You fly, you get your butt out there, you set up camp, and you hang out on an island in the middle of the lake, and no one else is going to be there but you, because you've staked out the island. You've got your camp on it. And these islands are small, guys. They're not big enough for like several groups of people. So once you're there, people generally leave you alone and they go look for the next island, right? If they're out there looking. The gates to entry, let's say, to this exclusive group is simply you need a boat, which is the biggest entry like block. I don't have a boat. I had to ride with them. 2, you need to go out there like on Wednesday. You need to be willing to stay there all dang half the week into the weekend, because everyone's trying to go out there on the weekend. So if you really want to stake one out, you need to leave Wednesday or Thursday. And you better be ready. You better take enough food for 3 or 4 days and everything you need. I'll say this. I wouldn't make a habit of it myself because I'm not a lake bum. It's just not my bag. But it was super fun. And the most special things I remember about that was, number 1, thunderstorm blew in, which was terrifying because you're out there on an island, right? But you're looking across like 30 miles of lake. It's as flat as it can be. You can see the entire storm, the structure of it, the whole thing. It was a supercell. It had the anvil top. It had a beaver tail, like the inflow boundaries, like everything beautiful about an enormous thunderstorm in the setting sun, no less, to the west, was on display. And despite the fact that I knew I could die if that thing came our way, it was awesome. I still have a picture of it it's actually still on my phone, I think, to this day, because it's just such a cool picture. It's just been hiding out the very top of my camera roll forever. And the other thing was camping under the stars out there. You could see the Milky Way, like the haze, with your naked eye, because you're way down in dark sky country, Ouachita National Forest lands, and you're out in the middle of a lake away from all the street lights that might even be around the lake. And it was so clear, guys. It was gorgeous. And hanging in a hammock, swaying in a breeze coming off the lake in the hot summer, looking at the stars, and even swimming in the lake, hanging around this pontoon boat, swimming in the lake at like midnight, 1 in the morning. That was a super cool adventure. Never done it since, never did it before. The only time I've ever done it. But that is a hidden gem within something that's a not so hidden gem, lake life down there, that you can do. If you've got all of the things needed and you've got the time to pull it off, you can do that. And it's something that I would suggest anyone take a shot at. If you can do it and you like that kind of thing, guys, you'll love that. It was super cool. Another one off down there is, well, we got some pretty awesome float rivers down in the Ouachitas. We're going to talk about one a little more detail towards the end of the show, one of the state parks that encompasses it. But other than that river, we have got the Ouachita River and we've got the Caddo River, and they are great, like mountain runoff, awesome smallmouth fishing, great for kayaking rivers. They actually do have outfitters, and they're still yet a hidden gem, so to speak. People do hit them, with the outfitters quite a bit. But what I'm about to tell you about is a super cool spot down there that is called Dragover. If you look it up, you can actually find it on Google Maps, but it is not somewhere that you're going to find outfitters or outfitters doing anything to put you on the water. What it is it's a giant oxbow on this river, and you go down there and you park, and you put your kayak in, and you float around this giant oxbow. It's like a few miles. It takes 4 or 5 or 6 hours. And then when you get back around to the other side, you're literally within like a half a mile. I think it's less. I think it's like a quarter mile from where you parked your car. So you pull out and somebody walks over to the cars, takes them 10 minutes max, and they drive over and get everyone's kayaks loaded up. So it's like really cool, guys. It's like a float yourself, We always talked about like shuttle yourself. That's the way to go. So you don't have to spend any money with an outfitter, but that requires a lot of coordination and a lot of extra time, because you got to have at least a couple of vehicles to get people to one place, but you got to leave a vehicle somewhere else. And then you got to cart everyone back and forth when you're done. It's a whole procedure. It can totally be done, but it's a pain in the butt if you're not paying someone to shuttle you. Dragover down in the Ouachitas is a perfect place to do that. Also some campgrounds. We do have campgrounds in the Ouachitas, right? Now, you don't have to camp in them. If you're in the national forest, you can disperse camp, but they do have improved campgrounds with toilets and everything else. And again, hidden gems. They are hidden gems. People are going to be using those because they're places made for people to congregate, right? There's going to be people there, but not like in the Ozarks. Not like where you're on like a 6-week waiting list if you want to do something like that up there, right? They're available, they're around, and you can generally drive up and stay in one. I don't know if that's changed a lot in the last 2 years or so, because our state's even getting more popular. But to my knowledge and understanding, you can still pretty much just drive up and grab a spot in one. And you'll have access to nice clean showers, some indoor toilets, and, like a already established camp spot with a fire ring and whatever. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? You can just go up the road a little ways and disperse camp, because it's national forest. Again, the true hidden gems, the national lands. But down in our Ouachitas, we have Little Missouri River. That is also an awesome river for hanging out in, finding a good swimming hole, fishing for smallmouth and largemouth. But it also has Little Missouri Falls, which is a really, really pretty, picturesque spot to hang out, to fish, especially to fish, man. You want to talk about smallmouth fishing? If you're into it at all, or fly fishing for smallmouth, like we don't have trout in Little Missouri or anything down in the Ouachitas, except for below dams. We do have trout in Arkansas, but they're stocked trout, usually below dams, below enormous lakes where the water is ice cold coming out of the discharge gate. But you can fly fish for smallmouth, and it is just as fun, I assure you. I used to do it. I haven't had a fly rod in years, guys. I had a really cheap one in high school. Walmart used to sell fly rods. My buddy and I bought one when we were in high school. Sort of, kind of learned how to fly fish on a crappy fly rod. I imagine that's like trying to learn to play the guitar on a $100. I don't even remember what a crappy brand is anymore. Guys, I've had so many guitars over the years. I can't even keep up. I love guitars. God, guitars are sexy. Anyway, it would probably be like trying to play guitar on a crappy guitar. It's a horrible way to learn. But we had them, and we used them. We got a lot of smallmouth with those things, and they were super fun. that's something someday when I have more money again, and more time to invest in a really expensive hobby, I will probably get back into fly fishing. But anyway, these rivers are great for that. But Little Missouri Falls is an absolutely gorgeous place down in the Ouachita Mountains. So again, we're talking about real hidden gems. All of these things I just mentioned are found within national forest lands. They are not focal points that are lined out by the tourism industry. Typically, a lot of these are old WPA type of campgrounds, Civilian Conservation Corps built stuff. A lot of awesome places and a lot of waterfalls, a lot of things to photograph, a lot of things to hike to. But what you have to do is find the location you want to be in, and do just start with Google Maps, because a lot of times there are things that are on there, even if they're not heavily used. I utilize the heck out of that, especially out in the Southwest. But also, like, you can go onto Google and just type in your search bar, like, what is there to do in the Ouachita Mountains of Arkansas? And you will definitely find some blogs or something somewhere, a lot of Reddit threads for things like that, that'll be people talking about, oh, you can do this or you can do that. And you will find some gatekeeping in there. I've been accused of gatekeeping. Why don't you just tell us where you went, Justin? Well, because, unless you've seen the destruction I've seen. Guys, when I was in New Mexico, just this last time, we went out there and we went to Bandelier. We did not get to go in the kiva. It's like a very unique kiva that's in the Pueblos, in the side of the mountain. And we didn't get to go in. Why? Because someone decided to desecrate a holy space for an indigenous person. Because the right thing to do is, scratch your name into the wall of something that has signs everywhere that says, please respect and revere this space for the religious significance that it has. And their idea, like just crap in the floor or whatever. We didn't get to go in because people can't respect stuff. I don't gatekeep, I screen. If you go back to anything I've ever told you that you should go try to do, but I'm not giving you directions to, you will find that every single one of those things is something you can find out how to do for yourself online. It just takes a little effort and a little detective work. And it's been my experience that people who are disrespectful enough to destroy beautiful things like spiritual places, like a kiva of someone who lived 1,500 years ago, are typically pretty lazy. And they're not going to put in the work to go desecrate something like that. They can just do that anywhere, right? So I'm not just going to hand you the keys, kid. I'm not just handing you the keys. You're just now learning to drive. You don't get the keys. You're going to have to learn how to drive first. So anything I ever tell you, you can find it. I'll give you a name. I'll give you enough direction to do it yourself. I'm not gatekeeping. I am screening out jerks. Wilderness jerks. That's what we should be calling them. Anyway, we've reached our 30 minutes for the first half of the show. So what I'm going to do is take us on to break here. And when we come back, we'll talk about these 4 main state parks that I have kind of curated aside by themselves because they all have something outstanding about them and they're all a little bit different in nature. So that everyone gets to hear a little bit of everything. And also I've got a whole list here of some of these other state parks for you guys to consider. Anyway, we'll be right back. What is up, all of you wayward souls? I want to tell you guys about our newest sponsor, Bendetti Optics, a brand based right here in the good old US of A, Portland, Oregon, to be exact. And I bought my first pair of Bendetti sunglasses about 1.5 years ago and fell in love with them so much so that I got online and ordered a couple of more pair. And when I did, there was a small shipping snafu, an order fulfillment snafu, and I got on the phone, gave them a call, and guess what? I get a call back from who? One of the big men themselves, right there in Portland, from the top of the chain. Have a great conversation, and we end up starting this great relationship we have. They more than made right the little snafu that occurred, and I am now a huge proponent of them because I can tell you from personal experience they are good people, and they're trying to compete with the big boys out there coming in at a price point of about $40, but using the exact same frame material, TR90, and the same polarization process as the big guys. As it turns out, something I think we are already probably knew in our hearts, when you buy big name sunglasses, you're buying a big name, not necessarily any more quality than you can get somewhere else, like at Bendetti Optics. They have 29 different styles They have multiple polarization options for whatever climate you happen to live in. And they back it up with like this lifetime guarantee that if your dog eats your sunglasses, it doesn't matter how you break them, send it back in with a check to cover shipping and handling and you're golden. You got a new pair on the way. These guys are truly trying to do it right. And they have this philosophy that a really good pair of sunglasses should not cost you so much that you are afraid to wear them. And I think all of us outdoorsmen can relate to that. So if you guys, like me, are very practical and like to get more bang for your buck and wear some great looking sunglasses, check out BendettiOptics.com. That's BENDETTI optics.com. Or you can go over to Instagram /BendettiOptics. And that I highly suggest, whether you buy a pair or not, just to check out the cutest pupper you'll ever see modeling sunglasses. Once again, that's BendettiOptics.com. And make sure and let them know Wayward Story sent you. And welcome back. Thank you guys for sticking around through our sponsor break. All right, let's just get right into it. State parks down in the Ouachita Mountains. We have 52 state parks in the state of Arkansas. I think we're working on 53 as a matter of fact. I'd say a good chunk, probably at least a quarter, if not more, maybe more than a quarter, are in southwest Arkansas, somewhere in the Ouachitas, generally speaking. So many stinking parks. I'm not going to count them. We have some really good ones down there, all down in the mountains. We're going to start with one on top of a mountain, and that's going to be Queen Wilhelmina State Park. That sounds like a weird name, doesn't it? What is Wilhelmina? Well, Wilhelmina is a name that was pretty prominent in Deutschland back in the late 1800s. Why would we have that name here? Well, one man who had a dream to build a railroad was courting some financiers, and he was after these people. And so he went about naming a lot of things after a lot of people over there to try to get them to invest money. And Queen Wilhelmina was one of those people. So Arthur Stilwell builds the Kansas City Southern Railway from Kansas City all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, and he gets these financiers to invest the capital to build this thing. So he builds this lodge on top of this mountain, names it after this woman to get that money. And it ends up being today state park owned, and it is a gorgeous lodge on top of Rich Mountain, the second highest peak in Arkansas, and just so happens to be home to Talamina Scenic Drive. It goes from Tallahena, Oklahoma to Mena, Arkansas, hence Talamina. And it is literally world famous, but still a hidden gem because, believe it or not that many people go and drive it. In the fall, there's a little bit more because our fall colors on top of Rich Mountain, I would never compare anything to the fall colors of the Northeast of the United States, but it's close. People literally come from all over the world to ride motorcycles or drive their convertibles or anything down Talamina Drive. Look, I grew up less than 40 minutes from Talamina Drive. I spent many, many nights of my youth on top of that mountain doing things that would probably get me thrown in jail. Okay? There was probably, maybe, alcohol consumed up there in the middle of the night on a lot of those overlooks. Probably, maybe a lot of things. I had a friend who used to love to kill rattlesnakes, and I was not a big fan of that, but I was a fan of hanging out and driving around on top of the mountain all night. And that's the other thing. There are a lot of big old, huge rattlesnakes, timber rattlers, diamondbacks, also up in those mountains. And at night, they like to come out on the roads and not sun themselves, but warm themselves on the hot asphalt. I am not a proponent of killing snakes anymore, even though I loathe them. They are like my greatest phobia. But I am not about killing them unless it's necessary to protect someone. Because my view anymore, I'm getting really hippie, y'all. My view anymore is like, listen, we're the intruders here. We're the parasites. We're destroying everything. This is their place. You know, I try to go out when I'm in their house and treat their house and them with the respect they deserve. That's kind of how I see it. Just my opinion, just my view. But back in those days, I would kill a snake because I don't know. That's just how I was raised. Not so much anymore. But Talamina Drive, y'all, it is gorgeous. Google it. Google it. You get a minute, Google it. Talamina Drive, Arkansas, Oklahoma, either one. You will see pictures. It is stunning. And if you come in the fall, you will love it. And also, for dark sky photography, come in the winter, you will freeze. You're on literally the top of a 3,000-foot mountain, essentially. But the views of the night sky, with your naked eye, you can see satellites pass overhead. Those dim, faint little dots on their own ballistic trajectory, just scooting across the sky. You can see it with your naked eye. If you're into astrophotography, one of the southward facing vistas, that's the place to be, because that's where you're going to see the Milky Way in the summer, and also in the winter. There's a lot of constellations in the southern sky that are great for photography, but you can also do that in the northern sky. But anyway, it's great for dark sky photography. It's great for an afternoon drive in the summer, in the fall. It's gorgeous. And then you've got Queen Wilhelmina Lodge right there to stay in with their beautiful rooms. There is the Pioneer Cemetery. If you're into history at all, these people are pioneers that settled on top of this mountain by taking horses and wagons to the top of this damn mountain back in the 1850s and 60s and 70s. And that cemetery is populated by those early pioneers. And the story of one young lady who supposedly died trying to fetch water in the middle of the night for her sick family and got cornered by wolves in a tree. And yes, we had wolves. Hell, that was the mascot of the school that I went to, high school, Heavener Wolves. Go Woofers. There were wolves in these mountains back in those days before we humans murdered them all to death. And that story is even told in the placards at the cemetery and on the state's website for the area. So, I mean, I think there might be some legitimacy to it. Anyway, around it, really cool historical cemetery, Queen Wilhelmina, gorgeous to see. The drive is incredible. They even got a little park train, because I guess that's a homage, a little throwback to the train, magnate that had that lodge built. And you can ride their little train, and it's a long train ride for a miniature train ride. My daughter and I just did it recently, and she loved it. We just went up there a couple of weekends ago because we were trying to find something to do relatively close. It's only an hour and 10 minutes from where I live now. And I'd never taken her up there, and she had a blast, y'all. It was super fun. You go up there, get your state park stamp, ride the little train, drive the gorgeous drive, check out on all the vistas and see the views across the mountains. Super awesome place. So that is a state park in the Ouachita Mountains that I will absolutely call a hidden gem, because people are not clamoring to it the way that they are, say, Mount Magazine up here closer to Northwest Arkansas in the Ozarks. Awesome place. Awesome place. Very much deserving of hidden gem status. So let's go next down into the valleys. Let's go down to the Cossatot River State Park Natural Area. Okay, this river is killer, quite literally. The name actually means skull crusher, Cossatot, and it is derived, and you will see this, and this is incorrect. You will see this even in some literature that I think is state literature, that it is derived from an ancient Caddo word. But it's actually a French word, and it was cassatet. Now, you know what, though? It could be right that it was a Caddo word, because the Caddo may have called it skull crusher as a river, because it will crush your skull. It's class 5 rapids. It is the premier whitewater in this state, and it is one of the best whitewater rivers all around. It's amazing whitewater. But it may have been a Caddo word for that the French came up with their own transliteration of, that is what we have today, kind of another Anglicanized transliteration of to get to Cossatot. But it's definitely a French word that this derives from, and is cassatet. And it goes to show you just how beautiful the French language is. Ah, oui, oui, cassatet. I mean, it sounds really sexy, right? But what I just said was, yes, skull crusher. See, French is that's why they call it the language of romance, right? Anyway, it's a serious river. If you're into whitewater, this is for you guys. The Cossatot Falls it's next level serious. It's class 5 stuff. It's beautiful. It's also great for fishing. Again, smallmouth, largemouth, things I've already mentioned. They do have an area for the family to get out, and it's more of a beach, and it's much broader and wider. It's not at the falls or the whitewater itself, where you can set out in your lawn chair with your feet in the water. You can let the kids play. Beautiful, beautiful place. State natural area. There to protect the wildlife within it, and it is filled with wildlife. If you love nature photography, if you love to fish, if you love to just swim, find a good swimming hole, if you love whitewater, Ouachita is for you. Let me see if there's anything specific that their brochure says that you might like to hear. Okay, here we go. Floaters note, the Ouachita is not for beginners. Ouachita floating opportunities are seasonal, usually early spring and winter. Water levels are normally too low for paddling during the summer and fall. Paddlers should never attempt this river alone or without proper equipment. Be particularly careful on or around low water bridges. The hydraulics associated with these structures may suck people and inflatables into the bridge tubes. As I've told you guys before, hydraulics are known as death machines. They're literally like a washing machine that sucks you in and will not spit you out until way beyond the amount of air that you manage to take down with you in your lungs. They are very, very extremely dangerous. All right, let me give you just the little state overview. It's very mood setting for Ouachita River State Park. The park, managed jointly by the Arkansas State Parks and the Arkansas Natural Heritage Commission, includes 12.5 miles of one of the most rugged and spectacular river corridors in the central U.S. With over 5,483 acres of rugged wooded slopes, outstanding geologic features, cascading clear water, and Class 3, 4, and even 5 rapids, the Ouachita is a favorite with skilled canoeists, rafter, and kayakers. The combination of natural vegetation, rugged topography, exposed rock formations, and sparkling water creates a scenic extravaganza. Okay, that was a little heavy, the extravaganza, but, we'll let it pass because this is really pretty darn beautiful. Anyway, the floating on this river is very, very serious. Special regulations. Here we go. Ouachita means skull crusher. The river can be dangerous. Review water levels, know your ability, and use common sense. A floater brochure is available. See, they even have a brochure specifically about the dangers, hazards, and proper procedures to get out there and float this river. It is not recommended for inexperienced or ill-equipped floaters. Heed the regulations for your safety and so others may enjoy this special area after you, etc., etc. The reason they're going so hard in the paint on describing this and how serious it is because, guys, you have no effing clue how many people think, oh, it's just a river. I floated on the Elk River. I floated the Buffalo. It can't be that big a deal. And they get out there, they get drunk, and then they get killed. This happens somewhat regularly. Okay? People have this tendency to have that mindset. What do we call it? Cognitive dissonance. It can't happen to me. It won't happen to me. Like, I can't even imagine a scenario where I would be drowning at the bottom of a river, unable to get away. It's called cognitive dissonance. Everyone suffers from it. The people that die from it are the ones that don't recognize they have it. So, if you're not familiar with the term cognitive dissonance, well, familiarize yourself with it. And remember, cascading failures and cognitive dissonance are the number one leading cause of deaths in the world, according to a statistic I made up just now on the spot, and I'm sure that it's completely wrong, but they are very, very serious things to know about. All right, let's get into another state park. I think you guys are going to dig this one. This one is great for the kids. Crater of Diamonds State Park. Okay, for any of you outside of the state of Arkansas, or possibly a little bit more of the broader South, you've probably not heard of this. You ever heard of a place where you can go pay $13 and dig for diamonds and have a really, really good chance of finding one? That's Crater of Diamonds State Park. Crater of Diamonds is an extremely unique state park, and I'm talking like maybe nationally, maybe worldwide, because how many places do you have a place known to produce crap tons of diamonds and some pretty darn enormous ones? Largest one ever, I think, found that was, you know what, let me read through the brochure because I'm sure they're going to touch on it. They found an exceptional diamond there in the last 20 years that will blow your mind. Let me see if it discusses it. Crater of Diamonds State Park exists to responsibly manage and interpret this unique site and provide a meaningful diamond mining experience for all guests and future generations. Among the tall pines of southwest Arkansas, visitors from around the world search for diamonds in a 37-acre field. Here, a massive volcanic pipe brought diamonds to the Earth's surface. This famous site is the only diamond-producing area in the world open to the public. Although genuine diamonds are the chief attraction to the crater, other semi-precious stones can also be found. Amethyst, agate, jasper, quartz, calcite, and barite are but a few of the gems and minerals that make this state park a rockhound's delight. On average, more than 400 diamonds are found each year, including such notable finds as, in 1924, the Uncle Sam at 40.23 carats, the largest diamond found in the United States. 1956, the Star of Arkansas, 15.33 carats, and blah, 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 all the way down. 16 carats, 8 carats, 9 carats, 7 carats, 5 carats. In 1999, here we are. This is the diamond I wanted to tell you about. In 1998, actually, the Strawn Wagner diamond, a cut white crater diamond weighing 1.09 carats, was graded by the American Gem Society as a D, flawless, 000, perfect diamond, a 1 in a billion diamond, stated by Peter Yancer, laboratory director of the AGS. This spectacular diamond is on display in the visitor center. Can you imagine how much that diamond's probably worth? I bet we could Google it. I bet it's millions. I don't know. How much are diamonds worth? But a flawless diamond that's freaking over a carat in size, and that was found in Crater of Diamonds by a human person like you or me that can go there and dig for it. Over 400 diamonds a year. Yes, they have several thousand visitors a year. Doesn't mean you're always going to find a diamond, but people do pretty regularly. I mean, it's more than one a day, right? 400 diamonds. You hear about them here all the time. They come across my Facebook feed regularly. Pretty big ones. How many opportunities do you have to go dig in a dirt field for diamonds that came out of? I mean, number one, yeah, you might score a diamond and make a few bucks, or just have a cool story to tell and a diamond to own. But also, think about the geologic history. Have you ever heard of a volcano in Arkansas? We had a volcanic pipe at some point, quite clearly, because it brought a bunch of diamonds to the surface. That alone is pretty cool. You're like digging diamonds in the crater of a volcanic vent. That's pretty legit. Now, don't get me wrong. If you go down there and show up, you're going to be like, that Wayward Son dude said I was going to be digging in a volcano crater. It's not exactly. It was eroded away millions of years ago, so you're in the national forest in a giant depression. But just the knowledge that this was a freaking volcano, how flipping cool is that? Like, it's super cool. I have been there. I have not personally dug, but I've been down there. I've photographed. I've seen it from a distance. I've watched the people out there merrily mining away. I will say this. If you ever decide to come out, you ever decide to check it out, I highly suggest bringing plenty of water. Bring maybe a easy up tent and a little caddy wagon, because this is what a lot of those people do. They'll be out there and they'll have their little sunshade tent up and they'll be in the shade because it gets hot. It's right out in the middle of a big open field that is a dirt field that they plow regularly to try to bring any diamonds up to the surface that might be just below, they're not seeding diamonds, but what they're doing is they're just kind of fluffing the top layer to kind of mix things up and, people get an opportunity to find a diamond. But go down there prepared for some pretty extreme heat if you're going in the summer for sure. But how freaking cool is that? And there's quite a lot of history down here as well. The first diamonds were found in 1906, and he ended up going through several development phases. It's been tried to be mined commercially. The state of Arkansas, I believe, even looked into it. And it's just not feasible for a full-on diamond mining operation. So this is a really cool use of a site like this. I mean, it's a good weekend getaway. Let's take the kids and go mine for diamonds. How cool is that? They've got some really nice facilities too. They have a nice little museum with some of those diamonds that we were talking about in there. And they've got 911 acres. It's all pine forest, loblolly pines. Maybe it's plantation pine. It just depends on where you're at in southwest Arkansas and what's been planted there. So along the banks of the Little Missouri River, which we just talked about, they have 47 Class AAA campsites with 50 amp water and sewer, 5 tent sites with water only, free public wireless internet, bathhouse facilities, campground, picnic areas, Diamond Springs Water Park, an enclosed group pavilion, amphitheater. They've got all the stuff you expect to find at a state park and the ability to find a diamond. How freaking cool is that? Ooh. I just got too excited. This is truly a hidden gem. Yeah. God, I should have seen that coming way before this moment. My brain, too much in my brain. I should have seen that coming before I ever sat down to record. Crater of Diamond State Park, truly a hidden gem. Anyway, let's move on to perhaps our last state park of the night we'll talk about specifically. This one is more Justin style in modern recent history. Historic Washington State Park. I bring up this one, not just because I'm a history nerd. How many state parks do you know of that are a town? That's what Historic Washington State Park is. It's one of the older towns in the state of Arkansas, right on the Southwest Trail, which was a major trail heading down from like St. Louis all the way down into Texas. And people the likes of James Bowie, you remember Bowie, the Bowie knife, William Travis, Davy Crockett, God, the Alamo, remember the Alamo? All these guys were travelers of the Southwest Trail. And as a matter of fact, Historic Washington State Park has a recreation because the other one burned down, but they have the blacksmith shop where the Bowie knife, which is obviously famous, everyone's heard of a Bowie knife. It was created specifically to specs for James Bowie, in that blacksmith shop. It is on record. It is not a myth. It's not folklore. An Arkansas blacksmith created the first Bowie knife, and it is still infamous and famous to this day. Also, tangent. Did you guys know what the whole Remember the Alamo and Texas Independence? Do you know what it's all about? Like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. History nerd here. Like, we've been talking about this for months now. My degree and everything. This is maybe shameful to me, or maybe it's indicative of how we've treated things as a society for the last few hundred years. Do you know what the Texas War for Independence was about? How Texas became Texas? What the Alamo was all about? It was about slavery. It was the Civil War in Mexico, just before our Civil War, about the exact same subject. Yeah. Santa Anna, the Mexican president, who was a despotic leader, they had their problems, sure. But you know what caused the Texans to rebel? Is he said, I'm going to outlaw slavery. And they said, no, you're not. We retain the right as sovereign citizens and children of God to subjugate inferior peoples to us. That would be black people. They're inferior to us, and we're going to make them slaves. Come get some, Santa Anna. And Santa Anna did. And that is what the Alamo was all about. That is what the Texas War for Independence was all about. That was the impetus. That was the catalyst, was him saying no more slavery. It's kind of interesting because it sort of foreshadows our Civil War here in the U.S., where we were like, yeah, we're going to keep slaves down here. And the federal government's like, no, you can't do that. And they're like, yeah, we can. And for anyone, if any of you ever hear people say it wasn't about slavery, like, go read the Cornerstone speech. The leaders of the Confederacy go out of their way to say this is about our right to own slaves and white man's superiority to the inferior black race. That's what the Civil War was about. Quit watching your mainstream news sources and listening to people on YouTube broadcasting from their basement, like me. But I'm telling you not to take my word for it. I'm telling you to go look it up, which is what those people won't do. Civil War, about slavery. So was the Revolution in Texas, the War for Texas Independence. Just found that out. Blew my mind. I had no idea, because we grow up being taught about, remember the Alamo and the brave guys there. They were brave. 100% they were brave. I mean, they stood in the face of an enormously superior army and knew they were sacrificing their lives. That's absolutely bravery. I'm not going to take that away from them. But, it was about, well, states' rights, wasn't it? Anyway, just thought I'd drop that bomb on you because it caught me off guard. Somehow I went through all these years Even before going to school for history, I somehow went through all these years being a history nerd and not actually catching what the issue was in Texas. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, moving on from there, historic Washington, not moving on, moving back to, off of my tangent. Let's get back on trail here. Historic Washington is really a cool little place, guys. There are several houses that are pre-1850, several more that are pre-1870 and 80. This is a whole little downtown area of one of the most historic places in Arkansas. That is on one of the most historic trails in the United States. The Southwest Trail is absolutely kind of fascinating, and they've got an awesome state park visitor center with a great museum. They have oh gosh, which house did I eat that lunch in? That great lunch. And it was inside the old tavern from like 1840 something. I know it was one of the oldest ones. Williams Tavern Restaurant, 1832. Circa 1832. Guys, there's over 47 listed properties right here on this brochure in front of me. Every one of these is before 1900. And most of them are pre-1870 and some are pre-1850. That is old. That is old for the American West. Any of you up there in the Northeast, like in Boston and places like that, you're like, that's not old. Yeah, here it is. That's very early in American history for this far west, which at that time, this was the West Coast, so to speak. Everything else was like Spanish. And then it was French for a little while. But this is where the U.S. ended. Well, actually, forever. It was the Mississippi River. Anyway, around it, extremely old. They have carriage tours if you would like to get on a buggy and ride around town and be told about all these houses as you are pulled along by horses who are pooping right in front of you. It's authentic. It's legit authentic. Also, they have these giant magnolia trees. One of them's 180, what did I figure it? 186 or 187 years old. Guys, go check it out. You go inside it. It's like a heaven for a child. If I had grown up near a magnolia tree like that, it's like walking into a building. Because, I don't know if you know what a magnolia tree is or how it grows, but look it up. And the canopy just expands out and out and out and all the way to the ground, to where if you make your way through one of the limbs, suddenly you're inside this like giant natural, almost cathedral of a sort, inside of a tree on the ground. It's like being in a little clubhouse, except this one's huge. It's huge. Go look, I believe on my Instagram, Wayward Son 119. I think I've got a little video I made. I think it's Instagram and not TikTok. And it may be on TikTok too. I don't know. But go look. And you can see a video of going inside that tree and get an idea of how enormous it is. This tree's over 180 years old. It is huge. And it's like a playground inside. Anyway, around it, historic Washington State Park's a super neat place to go and explore, especially if you're history minded. But even if you're not, it's a fun place to go and learn and get your state park stamp. And also, it's not that far from Cossatot, and it's not that far from Crater of Diamonds. You could take all three of those into a broader weekend adventure. You could do a lot of highway driving down there. For any of you guys that ride motorcycles, I know a lot of you ride bikes, man. We've got a lot of great roads down in the Ouachitas that are far better than the ones in the Ozarks. Hidden gem. Again, hidden gem. No one's down here doing it. This is a good place to do it because everyone's going to the bucket list places, right? Got to go ride the Pig Trail. Got to go ride the Boston Mountains Scenic Loop. Got to go ride over across to Harrison. All those places up in the Ozarks, promise you, the roads in the Ouachitas, just as beautiful, just as smooth, just more wide open, and way the hell less traffic. I love little road trips and drives that take me down into the Ouachitas, down 71, which 71's busy because it's a main thoroughfare coming out of Louisiana and Texas, Texarkana, all the way north. But once you get off of 71 onto Highway 80, Highway 28, Highway 270, Highway 7 South, Highway 27 South, those crisscross through the Ouachitas. They are wide open. They are well maintained. They are through plantation pine forest across hill and dale. Crest of mountaintops all the way down into river valleys. You'll cross the Fush-Lafave River, Little Missouri. You'll see the Ouachita, the Caddo. You'll see the lakes, Lake Catherine. And you can even go down to Hot Springs. We just did an episode on Hot Springs. Technically, in the Ouachita Mountains. It's in the more central part of the state, but it's still in this area we're talking about. And the only reason I'm not spending any time on it tonight is we just did an entire episode on it, like 2 episodes ago, which was like 6 months ago now at my current production rate. But regardless, Southwest Arkansas, the Ouachita Mountains are filled with places to camp, places to stay, places to swim, to fish, to do anything that you want to do. Ride bikes, ride side by sides. Truly hidden gem, because it takes more work. There's less convenience. Like I say that, like go ride motorcycles. Well, up in NWA, there's gas stations everywhere. There's very few places you can't find a place to grab lunch. Down in the Ouachitas, you might have to put in a few miles before you hit your lunch stop. It's truly much more isolated, much more secluded, much more metaphorically a hidden gem than anything in NWA. And all of you wannabe travel writers out there, I am one of them. I'm not talking down to you. But do some learning. Go get some good learning, guys. As my grandma used to say, we're going to learn you good. Go get some good learning and get creative and quit being so stinking lazy when you write. Everything is not a hidden gem. Hidden gem does not equate to beautiful. Hidden gem equates to this is an awesome place that nobody knows about. Very few people are going to. That's what a hidden gem really is. So anyway, up your game. I'm calling you out. Let's go out in the street, guys. I'm calling you out. Up your game. Anyway, guys, that brings us to 31 minutes, which will cut down to probably 30 to get past all of my stumbles and bumbles and dirty words that snuck in there when the cat was ticking me off. So we're going to wrap this episode up. We're going to call it a night. I'm really, really glad that I was able to get a minute to sit down to try to make this episode. Hopefully I will be able to get it edited tonight, because it may be a few more weeks before we see another episode. But Mary, thank you for sending me an email, and everyone else that's checked in on me to make sure all is well. Yes, all is well. I'm just busy as heck trying to, follow my path, create my wayward story, right? And again, if any of you want to tell me about your wayward stories, mywaywardstory@gmail.com. If you want to check out any of our other projects, go to the website. That is the nexus of all things we do, waywardstories.com. And check us out on Instagram. Anywhere else that I might be out there, it can be found with just a quick little Google. I appreciate all of your patience. Anyone who stuck around and came back for this episode, I probably lost all my listeners over the last 6 weeks. But anyone who checks it out, thank you for coming back. Thank you for your support. And again, I encourage all of you to go out and chase your own stories. Find your own passions. Get off of your butt and quit living through everyone else's experiences. Go and do it for yourself. The world is big, it is broad, it is beautiful, and it's freaking waiting for you to come and see it. Actually, it's not waiting for you. It's just going on being awesome out there. You're just missing it. So get off your tails. Go and live your life. You'll never, ever regret that. Until we meet again, you guys, go out there, make some adventures, make some memories, and remember to be good to each other.